I don't need to do anything to formally resume it, do I? Other than say resume it?
I think you just need to say we are.
Yeah.
Oh, I better double check that with you. There's nothing specific to say, hey? Yeah. Or whatever, or however you vote.
All right. I think we have everyone here and we're all online, so welcome back to the second part of the Strategy and Operations Committee meeting for the 15th of November. I think we've got just about everyone. Kim has joined us on Zoom, and I think Jocelyn might be joining us on Zoom as well. And hopefully Councillor Hamford. Okay, and do we have Councillor Hamford and Councillor Coots back? And Councillor Randall. My apologies, Councillor Randall. Perfect. So where we left off is we were in the Three Waters Better Off funding paper, and I think we're just about exhausted everyone's questions about it. But obviously, as we sort of talked about during that, I'm aware that there are several proposed amendments to the recommendations. So we've had discussions with officers about how to handle these. Now, I should have asked Dem Services about this before, but are you able to put Councillor Elliott's one up? Because we'll just address that first, as I think that's the easiest one to address. Apologies for putting you on the spot there. Well, I mean, we've got to discuss an issue beforehand, so I think it's useful to get what we're talking about up on screen so we can all see it. Perfect. So the advice I've had in relation to this from officers is that effectively Standing Order 22.5 would apply. So essentially additional recommendations are effectively amendments to the original set of recommendations. Even if you're adding an additional one, you're recommending it. And in those cases, that every proposed amendment must be relevant to the motion under discussion. And so the advice that's come through from officers about this, and there's two bits of advice around this, was that this isn't directly relevant to the matter under discussion. It's indirectly relevant in that it's about Three Waters and the broader reform program. So perfectly, I can understand the link of it there, but it's not directly relevant to us making the submission to the Department of Internal Affairs as to what to do with the Better Off funding. That's in the tranche on the Better Off funding. And then the second aspect of it is that any amendments that are significantly different must comply with the decision-making provisions, Part 6 of the Local Government Act 2002. And the issue we've got here is that the question of running a referendum essentially requires options to come back to council to decide on in terms of what the cost might be, what the options might be, what the wordings of any referendum questions might be. So I'm of the view that this amendment isn't appropriate for this, but it would be appropriate for a notice of motion that could come back to the next council meeting on the 26th of September, I think, and that would enable you to word in a way where you're asking for those options to come back and go from there. So that's my view as the chair on that one. I'm happy to have discussion about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, two comments on the first point you make. It may not be relevant to the actual decision around the other recommendations are on the Three Waters funding. However, it is of the same topic as an item in the agenda, which is exactly the principle we've applied in the past for as long as I've been here. Certainly that is the only reason why during the annual plan process and discussion and decision, my colleague here on my left, Councillor McCann, was able to bring up the Three Waters. And he did. And so I do I do query that one. I would also suggest that had the wording not been suitable as far as not asking for a recommendation, that I did give the CE most of this week to or other councillors to make any positive suggestions about changing the wording so that it would comply. And it's a shame that this didn't come back to me before today. However, I am happy to have it brought back to, I don't know, can I ask you to reconsider that at that point? Can we change the wording now to say, so that it complies with your idea of needing a report back, and then I can get Jocelyn to approve it and we can have a second it and we can have a discussion?
I think if you were to reword it, you could potentially table it as an amendment when we get into debate, because I understand that we've got two amendments that are likely to be discussed as well, so potentially we could deal with it then. But so certainly the advice I've had from officers is that this sort of request for a referendum is something that would be best addressed through a notice of motion and isn't directly relevant to the submission to DIA for the Three Waters Better Off funding. So we're deciding that we're going to ask DIA to approve where we want to spend the money that they're offering us.
Oh, yeah,
Whereas you're asking
absolutely.
for the broader question about whether Kapiti hands over, well, not hands over, what the residents' view is on.
I'm certainly not saying don't act on the recommendations on the table now. I won't be, but because I don't want to go near that. But what I'm saying is, separate to that, can we please have a referendum on Three Waters? And I can tell you, and it's listed here, this will be the 7th time I've asked the council in the last 4.5 years.
Well, I would say you will have an opportunity in the next, I think it's week and a half. If you can get the signatures for a notice of motion, you can bring it to the table for the meeting on the 26th, which obviously the council's got the bigger purview to that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, so with that in mind, and I'm assuming we've got no further questions about the paper itself, I think the best way to proceed here is to see if we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendations as they are. And if that's the case, then we can, if there are amendments, and someone can move and second those as we go, and we can deal with those as they come up. And obviously, if there's not a mover and seconder for the recommendations as they are in the report, then we can look at what the alternative recommendations are that councillors have put together. So do we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendations as they are in the report on page 7, which is recommendations A, B, C and D. So page 7 and 8, I should say. Oh, I'll allow a question from Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. Can you just confirm the date of that meeting that you referred to, the 26th of September?
Oh, sorry, 29th of September is what the CES said.
Okay.
I'm probably thinking of my next dentist appointment, which
Okay,
is postponed by 2 weeks to finish off a root canal.
Thanks. Now, the reason I asked is because when we discussed this last, it was only a proposed and held date, not a date of a confirmed meeting.
No, my understanding that meeting is confirmed. It's that extra one in the final week of the triennium, I think, is the one that's floating about, depending on whether we need it or not. But that's obviously that's a question for the Mayor, I think.
Thanks.
So, Councillor Holbrook, or Deputy Mayor Holbrook?
It's been common practice for people to move a motion with an amendment. Mine is not a major amendment.
If you're happy to move your motion, because we didn't have any movers or seconders.
Councillor Pavanov's now online.
And Councillor Pravanov's come online as well, I've just been advised. But given we had no movers or seconders, if you'd like to move your motion with its amendments, and we can go from there as a starting point.
Yeah, so I emailed the amendment through to staff.
Okay, are we able to have that one up on screen, please?
Yeah, and so if you could copy and paste the motion 3C and then stick that in. I just couldn't copy and paste from my hub.
ask a question of you, Mr. Chair?
You may, while they're hunting about, yes.
The mover is moving an alternative motion when we haven't got, but actually was moving the original motion, which we don't have a seconder of. I can't see how we're skipping over one to the second one procedurally.
Please hold, caller. My understanding is that where we don't have a mover or a seconder, then that's where we can have someone at the chair's discretion move and second alternatives like that.
Mr. Chair, what was proposed? What was proposed, I heard, Mr. Chair, was that they were moving the original motion and then
With the amendment to numbers to recommendation C. If the deputy mayor is happy to move them as they are, or we could deal with them individually potentially.
Yeah, I'll request that we take them individually.
Cool. I think that will make things a bit simpler as well, hopefully. I say that now, I'll probably regret it in a minute. So we'll come to this when we come to number C, but if we're going to do it separately, can we have a mover and a seconder for recommendation A, which is that council receives and notes this report. We've got Councillor Buswell moving that one. I'm happy to second it, because this is clearly the least controversial one. Right of introduction, Councillor Buswell. Any debate? Oh, we've got, I'm assuming that the Deputy Mayor, oh no, cool. Councillor McCann.
I think it's just while it falls into debate, it reiterates the issue that we have of information being presented to councillors at a time when we might be able to consider it and come to a conclusion. The issue that I have with the information that has been lacking in this report is that, or the timing of it, is that we, as councillors, we are literally having to make decisions about, for instance, Mahara Gallery and whether it moves forward or not forward, instead of discussing the process as one of those stakeholders. So I reiterate my calls that we need information earlier and be able to shape policy, not end up being the rubber stamp at the end of it. That is what I have to say about this.
Perfect, thank you. And do we have a right of reply from Councillor Buswell?
I think that we need to also just look at the fact. And the fact is that we are being gifted as a nice little sweetener a grand sum of $5,260,000 to do what we see fit with. And I believe the majority of this list, outlined in point B, has been in the plans for some of these lines, have been in our plan for 30 years. And I think that it's really, really great to have this gift of the $5 million to push these projects forward. And I think that we should do it without any hesitation.
Now, I've just had Councillor Pravanov's name light up, and I have a suspicion that she may have raised her hand before I called you, unfortunately, Councillor Buswell. Is that true, Democracy Services? It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Okay, so Councillor Pravanov, just because I appreciate you're online and it's a bit harder to participate, I'll let you jump in here.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So are we in debate?
We're in debate just on recommendation A, which is receives and notes this report. So we're taking them all separately.
Right, because so basically I can see on my screen C, and I think it's possibly only part of C.
Yeah, so we'll deal with that amendment to C when we get to there.
Right. Okay. So at this point in time, we're just receiving
and noting the report.
Right. Okay. Okay. I will hold off for a little while then. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Right, and with no further debate, all those in favour of us receiving and noting the report, please say aye. Aye. And those against? And do you wish for a division or for your no to be?
Yep, you can do a division if you like.
Okay.
Thank you
Can we
very
have a
much.
division,
Much
please, Chief
appreciated.
Executive? Need to flick yourself on.
Voting in favour, Councillor McCann, Councillor Holborough, Councillor Compton, the Mayor, Councillor Buswell, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Pravanov, Councillor Hanford. Against, Councillor Randall, Councillor Elliott.
Sorry, we also have councillor Kurtz for the
Ah.
Sorry,
Okay.
and that was just Democracy Services confirming
Excuse
that
me,
Councillor
Mr.
Cooch was
Chair.
for.
Could I seek some clarity here, please?
Hold on, we're in the middle of a division, so we.
Yes.
Yeah. I suspect this isn't really controversial enough to need clarity on.
Naomi could have voted if she'd wanted to, she chose not to.
She doesn't have to vote, she can choose not to.
Pardon?
She can choose not to
Yeah,
vote.
yeah, and she did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I can't do anything.
We're not sure if whether Kim Tahiwi has entered a vote.
What?
She may not be aware of the Zoom protocol in terms of how to vote. It's a possibility, so we can. Just in the process of doing so.
No, I haven't entered a vote. I abstain.
So that clarifies that one, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I can see the tick, so I am aware. So I will vote and use that when I have to.
perfect. Thank you very much. So that one is carried, I
It's
believe.
carried, yes.
Perfect. Right. Do we have a mover for recommendation B, which is approves the funding proposal for Kapiti Coast District Council's Better Off Tranche 1 funding allocation of 5.26 million available from 1 July. Now, is that, presumably that's 1 July 2022, not 2023, is this financial year? The Mayor has asked for a point of clarification.
That B, are we taking those items separately, each one, or are we doing all of one go?
So the Mayor has asked whether we're going to do those separately or as one go. In theory, we could do each item separately in that list if we wanted to, or we could do it as one go. I mean, if someone asks for it to go separately, it can go separately through all 14 of them.
Point of order.
Yes, point of order?
I think we've put in place a process where we're moving into who is going to move and second B, which is what you said could happen previously. And what you also agreed could happen is that there could be a substitution. So I'd like to move this and substitute B with the B that I provided to staff.
I just need to
I realise
check
it might be-
with the legal equals at the far end of the table that you can both move and then move the amendment.
But you just did it before and you agreed to it.
No, B hasn't been moved and seconded. But then can he amend? So the advice I've just had is that we can move each of them individually. So we can do B1, B2, B3, B4, and work through. We've just got to go very slowly because they've obviously got to adjust the totals, the final total at the end. And we've got a question from Councillor Coots.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with you taking each line individually and not seeing the amended list that I understand Councillor Compton is proposing, it is difficult for elected members to understand any adjustments if they haven't seen adjustments further down the list, or removals or inclusions. So I do not think it's wise going line by line. You could essentially be voting for something to remain in, and then find that it has insufficient funding if something else further down the list is put in or removed. So it'd be helpful to understand how that will work if you go line by line. My understanding is that amended tables or lists have been moved before. I don't see why it is a problem to consider an amended table.
Yeah. So just from talking to the chief executive there, if we have an amended table that could be moved, that would make things significantly easier. So Rob's nodding. So you'd like to move your amended version of B and the subsets of it, and has that been circulated to all elected members?
I'd like to remove a procedural motion that we table this report. I don't want to be comparing tables for the new thing then.
So
Procedural motion. We table this report.
So we need to, as a procedural motion has been said to table this report, we need to take that immediately with no further debate. So if we get a seconder for that. So Councillor Buswell has seconded that. So there's no debate on it. So all those in favour of...
Just can I get a point of clarification? Do we need to set a date that we would reconsider the report, or can it be brought any time? You could, which we've done previously, is 24.2D, which is that the item of business being discussed should lie on the table and not be discussed further at this meeting. No, not on that one. Too messy.
Yeah. So is that you're seeking to lie it on the table under 24.2D?
Please.
Cool. So all those in favour that the item in question, the item of business being discussed should lie on the table and not be further discussed at this meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? No.
Division.
Then we've got a call for division. The Chief Executive.
Those voting in favour? Councillor Buswell, the Mayor, Councillor Holbrook, Councillor Randall, Councillor Pravano.
Anyone else on Zoom?
Those against?
Hold on, we're just checking there's not anyone else on Zoom.
Councillor McCann, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Compton.
Is there anyone online?
Not that I can see.
Against, we have online Councillor Hanford and Councillor Coates.
So just go ahead and get a casting
What are
vote.
those numbers?
Sorry, can we do that division? Yeah, I was going to say, we might need to do that division again just so we get the numbers clear.
I don't know what I'm voting on. We're letting it lie on the table.
Yeah, so can we take the division again, please?
Find out
Can
what
we-
we're voting for.
Right. Those
Oh,
voting
sorry,
in
let's
favour.
continue on. Sorry.
Councillor Randall, Mayor, Councillor Buswell, Councillor Holbrook. Those those against, Councillor Compton, Councillor Coots, Councillor Hanford, Councillor Pravanoff, Councillor Randall. Yes, I'll come back to that. Councillor Halliday and Councillor McCann.
This is
Could
just,
you clarify that Councillor Randall appears to vote both?
Sorry, Councillor Randall, you voted for the motion for this to lie on the table, and now you voted against the motion for it to lie on the table.
Because because it's difficult. I have difficulty hearing it. Was it moved by Councillor McCann, that the motion we're discussing?
No, this one, the procedural motion was moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Buswell.
Okay, so I'm against that, Mr. Chair.
So to clarify, you're voting against this laying on the table, the procedural motion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I've lost track of the numbers in all of that. We're going to have to, can you count?
7, 4. So what? 7 against, 4 in favour.
Okay.
There we go. So it's a 7 against 4 in favour. So the procedural motion has been lost. So I believe we go back to where Rob McCann was, where he's moved what I believe is the amended table, which I think has been circulated to councillors. Has it? No. So can we get this? Can we get the amended?
We haven't even discussed it. We have no background.
Can we get the amended motion B that I believe has been sent through to Democracy Services? Here we go. Amended motion B. So we need a seconder for this.
I request that they be taken separately.
Well, we need a seconder, don't
No, we need a seconder
We've
first.
got the mover, but we haven't got a seconder.
I don't know what's new, what's old.
So I was going to say we don't have a seconder for that, so that looks like it's not progressing. So
I'd like to move the original table as outlined in the report.
is that to? I'm trying to understand. Is that to second Rob's motion?
Yeah, kia ora, I have my hand up to second Rob's motion.
Cool.
They didn't get spotted.
Cool. Thank you. Right. If we can look at this table, so we've also had the Deputy Mayor request if we can do each item individually. So we, which I appreciate is frustrating, but this is the nature of this beast, unfortunately, I believe. And we just need to go slowly on each item because if something is lost or amended, we've got to update the table at the bottom, and then we can't do anything that means that number at the bottom, 5.26 million, goes above 5.26 million because we can't ask for more than that.
Mr. Chair, may I suggest that we take a 5-minute break, staff print out both documents so they could be side by side.
Yes.
It might make it a little bit easier.
I think that sounds good before we proceed into this. So let's just adjourn the meeting, I propose, for 10 minutes. Can I have a seconder for that? We'll take Councillor Halliday for that. Any debate? All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against? And it's carried. We'll see you back here at about 3:09.
That's crazy, trying to count a vision when you can't see who's voting. Holy moly. It must be.
I did just want to clarify one point, which is that even if it had come to us through to us on Sunday, it would have been too late in terms of the notice of motion process.
Yeah.
So it's got to be 5 clear working days.
Oh, yeah, I know for
Yeah.
notice of motion, but this was just something very
And in terms of
kindly
working
giving.
with you around the wording of the amendment.
Yeah, I'm trying to relay what's happening as it's happening. But
Regardless, though, I think
it's ridiculously fluid in here as well.
having looked at it just before, I think it would be difficult for us to reword it easily so that it did fit within this. You know, I think it's sort of, as Councillor Compton has said, it's
Very painfully
the issue
aware
of you know, taking this question
I
to
shall-
the public
I'll
as whether they
re-emphasise
want to,
it
you know,
when
if they
we
want
get back into this.
to publicly support
I'll
the Three
re-emphasise that
Waters
to people